Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to talk about Book of Many Things, which I think is really absolutely fascinating book. And today we're going to talk about Chapter 8, The Fates. So, Chapter 8 deals with the Fates card. So, the Fates card, you draw it from the deck of many things, and what it does is it allows you to rewrite an event in your history, and you could choose it right then, right? You could be like, what if the dragon never killed, Elvia, the elf ranger, right? And you're at the tavern and you just fought the dragon and your best friend died, but you draw the deck of many, you draw the fates card from the deck of many things, and it rewrites anything you choose. The other thing is, unlike any other card, you can hold it. There might be other cards that do this, but you could hold this card and you could use it whenever you want going forward, as long as you activate it by thinking it and saying. I don't even think you have to say it out loud, but you do have to use it before you die, right? Which is interesting. So the moment I read Chapter 8, I was like, okay, what's happening here, right? Because it is my strong belief that once you begin engaging with Dungeons and Dragons, what you really see is that it is a mirror that it can, and a mirror can be used in a lot of different ways, right? And one of it is to reflect on our own lives, right? And so the chapter says, you draw the fate card, and it allows you to rewrite an event in your history. It further on, it says you're dealing with this. This happens with characters whose lives have been upended by an event of great significance. So the moment I heard that, I thought about my own life, and I was like, when has the fate card been drawn, right? And it's really fascinating, right? Because it's dealing with higher forces helping us to determine our fate, right? And the moment I heard that, I realized, the event of great significance in my life that upended everything was when I was saved in 1985, when I accepted Jesus Christ in 1985. That so it immediately made me reflect on that, right? And so, one, I don't believe there wasn't any fate involved, right? Like, God called me, right? He said, hey. And I guess there is well, I want to say there's good fortune, but the reality is God simply chose, right? And then I responded, right? And it's the path to salvation, right? So when I was, so I was born in 1970. My parents started raising me as Christians, and this is the fate draw moment of my life, in my humble opinion, right? The most important one. They're actually, once I look at Book of Many Things, Chapter 8, the Fates, I realize it's happened several times, right? And it also helps me recognize when the fate card is being drawn, right? In my personal life, where there's this event of great significance that's going to upend my life. And others, I think, look at this with fear because they don't know what's coming next. And I understand that's a legitimate response. But if you understand that these events of great significance are not necessarily going to harm you, that they can be a good occurrence, it changes everything. So 1970, I'm born. My parents begin raising me as a Christian. And all the way up until I was 15 years old, I rebelled against it. I was like, "This is your beliefs. You take me to, you take me to church every Sunday, which is just really kind of a pain in the butt. There's a lot of things that I don't like about this." And in 1985, at this point, I had heard the Bible so many times and received so many, sermons, and I just said flat out to this youth group leader. We were, at youth group. I was like, I'm not going to get saved because this is a God who's letting half the people, actually, like 80-90% of the people, are going to be without him and go to the hot place forever. I'm not going to worship that person, right? And the youth group pastor was just like, listen, the reality is this is going to happen, right? You don't understand that this is the structure God chose for the world, and it is good. You don't understand that yet. But what you do know enough to understand is that, one, this judgment is coming. You have zero ability to save yourself, and you're going to die, and you're going to be separated from God forever, and where you will be forever will be this horrible hot place, right? And the moment he said it, I was like, oh, I definitely have sinned. I definitely am quite aware I can barely solve minor problems in my life. There's a lot, actually there are problems a lot smaller. I could solve minor problems in my life at that point. There are a lot of problems that are much smaller than eternal salvation that I certainly cannot solve. So he's right. I'm going to, and I believed that what was in the word was true, because at this point at 15, I had seen enough to know my parents had believed this, and all the people that they introduced me at church are people who are trying to be good, trying to be kind, trying to be tolerant. And all the people I meet outside of the church are like objectively worse, if not outright evil, right? I was like, and it just snapped in place, and I prayed the prayer, and I he explained what needed to be said, and I said, Lord Jesus, I know I'm a sinner. I know I cannot save myself. I know you died on the cross to save me. Please save me with the blood that you shed on Calvary, and cover me with that blood, so that when I come under the judgment throne of God, he will only see your righteousness. Please save me, Lord. And that was it. I was saved. And that was an event of great significance that completely upended my life. Now, unlike the deck of fate, now the thing is, I don't think there was any fate involved. God called me, right? And I asked Jesus Christ for salvation. Those are the only two components that are needed for salvation, right? Because salvation is extended to every single person, right? Some people, and you're like, well, wait a second. How did you choose "and he called"? It's a paradox, just like the virgin birth, right? It is a paradox. It cannot be logically explained. You need to believe on faith. But this was now that I look at it, this is not a card being drawn. This is an event of great significance occurring in my life that upended my life, right? Now, and actually there have been troubles that have come from it, right? But the reality is, every day since, and what really happened is, Deck of Many Fates lets you rewrite one event in the past, right? My salvation under Jesus Christ rewrote every event in my future, right? And not for the better, but for the perfect, which is truly astounding, right? And I love Dungeons and Dragons because it's a mirror, right? So once you see this thing that is written for a player character, you immediately, think about it in context to yourself, and you have new answers for your life. And I'm so thankful to Jesus Christ for saving me, and I'm so thankful for the incredible designers at Hasbro D&D who have created this mirror to help me better understand the events of great significance that upend my life. And I'm incredibly fortunate to be in this time with these things, with this community, and with you. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.